Hey Chris, how's it going?
Hey Frank. Good. I'm sitting in an Amtrak train underneath Penn Station, so
Oh,
highly mobile, but very adaptable. Or as Dean would say, improvise, adapt, overcome. So
yeah, good. Hi Gina, how are you?
Good. I'm just trying to figure out my speakers, so I've just
Oh,
figured that out.
looks like you got it.
I'm
Have you
in
have you
the,
have you been with us before?
I haven't been to your Wednesday night. I've been on the Sunday.
Oh,
So
okay.
thought I'd say hi.
Well, good. Welcome. Yeah, glad to have you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
where are you based, Gina? Like, or where's your investment portfolio?
But yeah, I'm in San Jose, California, and I have a rental in North Carolina. I just sold one, and then I have other then the rest I have um six in Florida.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
it is awesome, but but it's not because I was like super smart. So that's why I joined this. I caught in the 2021, rampage and did the 1 to 1031, and now I've been like trying to stabilize for the last few years. So
Yeah.
um
No, you are smart. You're just trying to get smarter. That's the right answer.
amen. There you go. There you go. That's it. That's what it's all about. Yeah, exactly. No, thanks.
That's great. Yeah, we're not too far from you. We're over here in Watsonville.
Yeah, Frank, I think I met you before on a Sunday call. So yeah, thanks.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, great. You didn't happen to get over to Jen and Casey's meetup yesterday, huh? They were meeting up in Milpitas.
Really? I no. Yeah, I'm still like just trying to work on time, just on my time. Yeah. I don't know, don't let me jeopardize the meeting. I can go
No?
talking a lot. But okay, so yeah, I'm actually yeah, I spend a lot of time commuting and other obligations, so I just have not been able to give a lot of attention. I mean, that's why sheesh, I'm just glad to jump on tonight. Usually I'm kind of coming home from work like, and so uh yeah, just wanted to check in, with you guys. I learned so much
Yeah.
and reflecting on that stuff. So yeah, that would be really good. I think there's something in Mountain View on the 21st. Um REI meeting that I at the loft, or it's called a loft or something. I think Michael Zuber presented at that a few months ago, if I recall. But so I think I penciled that in on the 21st, just
Okay.
FYI.
Do you know what time that's going to be?
Probably like six-ish or so. I think I think it's gonna be late afternoon, evening. Um, I mean, for me, so great. Thanks for letting me know about that one in Milpitas that happened. I missed it, but I feel like for Silicon Valley, we're in short supply of REI meetings. That seems to be my, eh, quick observation.
Hmm.
There's one that seems to be pretty like kind of almost commercialized, but I don't know if that's true. Um, it seems to be more of a really a big organization, and I'm looking more for people, a little more scrappy, but
Hmm.
maybe because I'm, intimidated by the others. So
Yeah. Well, you won't be in
yeah,
a bit. Pretty soon you'll fit right in. Um, yeah, I know. I would have liked to go to their meetup yesterday too, but traffic over there at 6 o'clock, you wouldn't get anywhere, even if you're just going from San Jose to Milpitas.
oh yeah, that's a good, yeah, 40 minutes. Easy, easy. I don't know, you'd be coming the other direction. So
Yeah, I'd be okay until I hit Los Gatos, I think.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Are you in South San Jose or what part of San Jose?
Yes, South San Jose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here. If you have any
Thanks.
questions, just jump in. We're, just like the other group, we're pretty informal and we kind of just let the questions start if anybody has any, and then that usually leads the evening.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything new with you, Brendan? How have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been doing good. I got a renewal coming up. Be my first renewal of a tenant, so I want to get everyone's thoughts on if you've had any renewals recently, kind of where, and I know obviously it's local, but here in Central Texas, I feel like things are staying pretty flat. So just want to kind of ping it off everybody if they've had any renewals lately and where they've been as far as increases, or I'm assuming everybody's staying flat or maybe somebody's decreasing, but I have a feeling where I'm going to go. Probably keep it flat. Because I'm already at market value, but just want to get everyone's thoughts.
I cannot offer a thought. Again, it's obviously hugely market dependent. Had some very, and this is over summer, or well, I'm sorry, this is over May through September, June, and I pushed the rents, to the high end of the range, and I got it. But a renewal I had more towards September, October, or like I don't know, like 50 or $100, right? So
Your signal doesn't seem very good, Chris.
uh,
You're breaking up.
You know what's weird is Jack's or Chris. Oh, did he disappear?
Yeah, he
His,
must have.
his window has the mute button, but then we could hear him.
Right.
That's a little kind of scary.
Yeah,
You're muted, but you're not.
I noticed that as well when he first jumped in.
Oh, okay, Chris, sorry.
Are you back, Chris? Maybe his is reversed tonight. Yes, it looks like he said he was going through a tunnel or something.
I was gonna say, Brendan, that I'm in the like, don't ruffle any feathers right now.
Yes.
This is not, you got to think about that. What, $20, $50? It's like, if you lose a good, if their tenant is nice, if you want to get rid of them, yeah, raise it. But if you don't, that turn it's expensive. And so, you know what? I think rents have flats, and so this is it. You know, maybe we cut costs elsewhere. I mean, one of the projects I need to get into is really looking at insurance and just other management of like other places to cut costs, or just kind of recognize where my investment is, and that's it. And am I on top of maintenance? And so I'm not hit with surprises and having to make fast decisions. That might be, something that's cost us more, having to just go really hard on something where we're like, we don't have time to investigate, we got to satisfy a tenant's need. So maybe there's other places, but I'm like, one person I basically I gave him an option where, because for us, for some reason, all our rents were coming up like in the middle of summer, which is the worst time. And so for one, the most recent one, I said, well, two recent ones. One, I gave him basically a year and a couple months to get him to January. So I want his lease to now come up in January. So I said, you can either you can have the same rent for this period of time, or, and I can't even remember what the option was, but we gave him that option, and he took the it wasn't quite at 18 months, but whatever the extended rental period. So it got me into a place where I'm happy, he's happy, everybody's happy. And then the other folks, and then another situation, yes, kind of same situation. So I'm just like saying, I wouldn't mess with the rental increase at this time. The market's not, it's not responding to it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. The tenants have been amazing, actually. They've been best. I got pretty lucky with my first set here, so
yeah, I don't know, maybe you ask them how they are. Is there anything that they would like, you don't want to put all your cards forward, but actually, you reminded me, I gotta follow up with this tenant. So he's got a really great rate. Don't get me wrong, he's got an awesome rate and probably 100 less than market, but how much is a turn? That's
Couple grand.
that's more than that. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, and he's one thing I'll just share with something that happened was he tried to fix the sink and he broke it. He tried to
Mm.
fix a leak and he wound up breaking the sink. And actually, I just remembered I haven't followed up with this. And so the management charged him for the sink. So now he's mad because, of course,
Mhm.
I had talked to the management come up. I said, hey, well, what happened? Was it faulty or did he break it? And then, and then they basically determined it was his fault. They sent the plumber out, they determined his fault, and then they charged him. But then suddenly he ain't so happy,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
and I'm like, and so my last conversation was like, look, I would have paid for the sink. He tried to do the right thing.
Mhm.
He's trying to do the right thing and stay under the radar. So we need to let him know, bring problems to us. We'll take care of it. We value him. We're not going to try to wreck you. But so now I got to follow up and see how that relationship is because you know, now he's like resentful and now he's finding little issues. And so I got to make sure. I'll just share that and anyone else can pipe in based on that.
We have, well, we had 5 units vacant over the last couple of weeks. We have a duplex in Milwaukee, and those turnovers went pretty well. We did have to spend some money. In one unit, the carpet was toast, so we replaced carpet. Those turnovers did cost us quite a bit, but they found tenants, qualified tenants. So one moved in on the 4th, the other one's moving in at the end of the month, and those rents stayed the same. Those came off of 2 evictions. So the evicted tenants were at 1350 and the new ones are at 1350. And just like Gina was saying, the property management company started them out with 6-month leases so that they would end in a better time.
Oh, good.
And then hopefully things will go fine over the 6 months and then they can renew for the year. But I thought that was I was happy that the property management thought about that. Everybody talks about, turnovers in the wintertime, except for Dion. He likes that kind of thing because people don't tend to move. But now, so that was in Milwaukee. We have 3 single families in St. Louis that are finishing the rehab process. And I'm thinking like you, Brendan, too, that so 2 of them are new purchases and we ran our numbers with certain rents of how they were at the time. But now things are changing a little bit. So we might end up getting a little bit less than anticipated, but the deals, the numbers worked well enough that if we have to take a 50 or even $100 hit, they'll still cash flow, just not like we had hoped.
Curious, Frank, what did it cost you because I haven't turned a unit yet. Like what did it cost you to turn just ballpark that
Yeah,
was it a
yeah.
duplex you said?
On that duplex,
Yeah.
it was
Couple
33
thousand okay. So a few
3,300
grand. Yeah.
for each one.
Okay.
And then the one so they went in and they did the trash out. Once they removed the trash in the second unit, they realized the carpet was bad. So
Uh-huh.
that was an extra 2,600. So total, that's what, like between $8,000 and $9,000 for the 2
Okay.
units.
And is the property manager upcharging you for that at all or no? That's just what the bids are and
Yeah, when these bids came in, you typically when they give us the statement, we on some of our other properties, they'll show like a 10% property
okay.
management fee.
Okay.
In the one we have in Gary, Indiana, that's how they do it.
Uh-huh.
But on this one, we didn't see any upcharge for the repairs.
Okay.
Yeah. We just switched over to this company about 4 or 5 months ago, and the tenants were kind of leaning in the bad direction. So the property management company didn't have any problem taking them over, even though the tenants were iffy. They got them out quick and got the places
Here,
out.
yeah, so I put in, yeah,
Yeah, so the turnovers, I mean, were fairly expensive, but I was telling Dion today that the stuff that we're fixing up are things that are going to last a while. So this year has been a little bit rough because of all these things that should have been done previously,
Mhm.
from the other landlord. But
It's gotta be rescanned. Everybody's gotta be rescanned.
Right.
No,
so that's what's happening with us.
Yeah. So it's kind of preventative. So it's just stuff that you're knocking out now that you won't have to do for whatever a long time, which is good.
Yeah, and I know that like the carpet will wear, but hopefully around 5 years or
Yep.
maybe a little bit longer, depending on the tenants. And because the carpet in the other unit has been there since we bought it, and it was there before we bought it, and it's still looking really good. We've had it for 2.5 years already.
Mhm.
So again, the tenants.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I'll keep them probably right where they are, and then if things explode here in 2026, then we'll maybe do something. But
Mhm.
it's good to know.
Yeah, I think what Chris was going to say earlier, because he shared it with us on one of the previous meetings, is that, can you go now, Chris?
no, go ahead, finish your statement. I want to know
Oh,
what you thought I was going to say, because I'm
yeah.
sure what you're going to say is smarter than I was going to say.
I was just remembering that you were saying you tested the higher rents in your market and were surprised that you did get the higher rents.
I would say if you have the stomach and the capital reserves for it, you should not try. You should always test the higher end of rent because you can list it for 2 weeks and then you can drop it. You can drop it 150, 100, whatever bucks. I've been pleasantly surprised that I've gotten it 9 times out of 10 in the last 6 months, right?
Where are you located again?
I've got two markets. I've got a Philly suburb called Collegeville Trap, and I've got Lancaster, PA, which is
Okay.
U.S. News and World Report top 10 places to retire, which
Yeah, I've been there
shocked the
before.
crap out
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah.
So if you like Amish, it's a great place. So
Yeah. I was there like 10 years ago,
yeah.
randomly.
No, but I think in general, because I and maybe you guys are smarter than I am, but I have found. Sorry, I'm on a train. I have the biggest thing I've struggled with from a data perspective is getting good data on rental history. Because I can go into Zillow and I can see how a house sold 10 years ago,
Hmm.
but I can't go into Zillow and find out how an apartment that's already rented was listed 5 weeks ago. So the date and rentometer pretty poor. The Section 8, FMLA stuff or what? Sorry, that's interesting. But in some markets, market rent's higher. Some markets slower. It's a good baseline. It's a good benchmark. But I think you have to. I don't think I work in supply chain, right? So I don't think you really know market. You really don't understand market pricing until you test it. You should start testing
Yeah.
at the high end. Now, if you're scrimping to make things
Chris,
meet, then don't do that. So go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, Gina.
well, my question was, don't you think that, well, I kind of like to not push, I don't like to push it to like the ultimate. I did, of course, in the last couple of years, but then, well, actually, not even. It's like, I want good tenants. I don't want just the one that says, sure, we'll pay because we don't have any sense. It's like, you don't have sense in how much to pay, then you're not going to have sense in how to take care
Yeah.
a rental. So it's like I rather something I want to have more I want to be more choosy on who
You want to be, yeah. So
That's
no,
my thought.
that's totally a fair point. So I think it's all about what's your approach, what's your criteria. So I have the advantage, which some people don't, that I only have markets within an hour where I live. So what does that mean? One, I have a high bar. I use Hemlane. I do credit checks. I have a 680 credit score requirement at a minimum. Um, and then um, I don't do individual showings. I do open houses, and I run them personally, which means I meet everybody who comes in. I see them, and then I get a chance to meet all the tenants, and that has the last 4 years, 30 units, and I don't know, like 28, 34 tenants. That served me pretty well. The only problem I've had is with inherited tenants. So, I mean, look, it's not a perfect strategy, but it helps. Um,
Let's get it
and
clarified that, that 360 approach there. That's important that's how you're getting that extra. I think you
yeah,
can
exactly.
justify that extra because you're looking in the eye, you're sticking your hand, versus
Yeah.
a property manager that sends it to a third party to get a background check and then says,
Yeah. And Gina, that's a great point. Like I would tell you that we self-manage 25 of the 30 properties we have, and we inherited a property manager on one who was originally very good. And then they sold their company to another property management firm, and they're not so good. Like I went to the unit one night between tenants, and I said, "Hey, I want to check out the unit." I've had instances where I've gone in a lockbox that they were doing showings with a lockbox. They were giving them the code and saying, "Yeah, just go check out the house you want. Here's the lockbox code." I went there on the street, and the lockbox was open, and I'm like, "Okay, that's a problem." And then I went back 2 or 3 weeks ago, and obviously, the interesting thing about the PMs is that they were changing locks between tenants, which I think is a reasonable thing. And I don't even always do that, but like they took out the deadbolt and they left it. There was a hole. They just left it empty on Friday, and they're gonna like the locksmith's coming back on Monday to replace the lock. And I'm like, so for 3 days, there's just a hole in the door that if I had my 5-year-old daughter stick her hand through there, she could. I mean, I'm just like, what are you guys thinking? Like, and like anyway, I don't have a lot of. I've not had great experiences with good PMs. I know they're out there, but yeah, but that's been my approach, right or wrong. And there's different approaches. I started in this journey with a real estate group of nurses and some MDs, and they're almost all remote investors, and they've had great experience. But their philosophy is you never invest in the market until you really nail down the team first, which and PM's a key part of that. So anyway, food for thought.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm all about like I've got to have a good property manager. That's they make a market. They make the market. They will tell you what the rent
Totally do.
is. They will tell you, so I've definitely had thank goodness I have had a few that so I could know what the bad ones and then I know what good ones and they're very different. And so they range in like, wow, this is my A plus, I'm a kid, and then there's the other one. Yeah, you're good, you're solid. There's another one, you guys are kind of typical, but you're trying and that's okay, so it's like, but then there was others that were just like, no, you're dropping the ball all over the place. And then when you're wicked, these people are just like evil shysters. So
incompetent.
had a whole range.
I will say one thing that I learned from, and we've been in Lancaster for 4 years now. Once you get a market dialed in, not from a PM perspective, but like from when you're managing, you have the plumber, the plumber who will go out at 11 at night or on a Sunday. You have not the plumbing, because what I learned is the plumbers in our area, they'll only do anything that's inside the building envelope. If you want to go in the basement, you want to do the sewer lines or things like that. That's a separate service, right? That's a sewer team. And you have the electrician who's, affordable, cheap, and flexible. And you have the GC and you have the maintenance guy and the painting guy. And I think it takes you 2-3 years. But once you have it dialed in, like that market becomes so much easier. I mean, it's just like, it's crazy. You can remote manage it without a PM pretty easily, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a steep investment, which not everybody can afford to make, right?
Yeah, maybe if I was a few hours, but I'm across the country, so it's like, and I'm working. I don't want to. I just cannot manage all that.
So I know why you're getting better rent than you expected is because you do your own showings. And it works both ways. Like a renter wants an owner that's going to be there. that cares about the property. So, you know, when renter might pay $50 more, $100 more to have that. So they don't want a bad experience
Yeah,
either.
and I would add to that and say, hey, by the way, like all the stuff I'm talking about, most of it was recently finished, or recently redone, like from literally like the studs up. So like, that doesn't hurt either. Like I'm doing stuff that, relative to the rest, like in Lancaster, like most 60% of the units are just dumpy. I wouldn't have my daughter stay there if she were in college, right? And the stuff I'm doing is like nicer than anything I've ever lived in my entire life until I actually graduated college and got a real job, right? So, I think that's a factor too. I'm kind of following Matt's model of trying to really build like a high end experience, not like an class A, but like a class B plus. But yeah, I mean, the corollary to that is that the units that I inherited that I haven't yet upgraded, and I've only got maybe 5 of them. Yeah, maybe five, maybe six, depending on how I look at it, right? They're good, but they're not great. And if I had to re-rent those next week, I'd probably be a lot more nervous. I'd probably struggle. I'd probably have to be a little more compromising on rents and things like that. But that being said, like the people who are in those units and who stayed, and I've done a lot of work to kind of like accelerate the maintenance and address a lot of the deferred maintenance. Like I've bumped rents anywhere from to 10 like 3 to 7%, and they've been okay because I think they know that for them to go elsewhere, it would cost them more than that. So I guess all I'm saying is like, look, I work in supply chain and I would tell you that my team sources somewhere between 800 million and 1.2 billion dollars of goods a year, right? Electronics, you name it, right? Sneakers, like all over the world. And what I've learned is that when the market's moving fast, when prices are changing quickly, nobody really understands market pricing. And the only way to really evaluate that is to test the market. And so if you can afford it, if you can do it without hurting yourself, there's usually some value there, right? Like now, you don't want to test the market with a high end rent in like October in the Northeast because that's not good, right? But like I was testing the market in July in Lancaster with a brand new unit. So you gotta exercise some judgment, but I don't really think. Look at the CPI results yesterday, today, right? Housing is still climbing, right? The housing costs are still climbing. I don't think we really understand market pricing, and I think you have to test it. Have a high bar, right? Meet the tenants, or at least establish a high of liquidity and credit score and things like that. But I'd rather wait an extra 2, 3, 4 weeks, month, and get somebody with a 680 or 700 credit score. And then I'm also eyeballing their credit report. Do they have a stable job? What do they look like? Then take a risk. But that's a tenant that at a minimum there'll be no concerns for the next year. And best luck, they'll be a good 3 to 5 year tenant, right? So.
Brendan, are
There's
you
a lot.
self-managing? Sorry, Mitesh.
I am, yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot that goes into it. So, yeah.
Thank you. I was going to just say too that when we were trying to do our rent studies and stuff for the St. Louis market, I checked in with our PM and he came back with some what I thought were pretty low numbers. They were lower than we were already getting. On one of them, we had a Section 8 tenant at 1150, and when I asked him about it to re-rent the place because she was moving out, he came back and he was barely at $1,000. So
Wow.
and he's fine with me because I've been showing him all the comps and all the numbers that I'm seeing, and so we're going to try my number first. And like Chris was saying, if that doesn't work in a couple of weeks, then maybe we can try lowering it to closer to what he's thinking and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
I think some of those PMs, depending on the size of the business, they have a pro forma that they base their rents on. That way they can ensure that the unit gets filled and they get paid.
Mhm.
So they may be $100, $200 below market rent, and they're just basing that upon they know for a fact that it will get rented and they will get paid versus sitting there, longer and waiting and not being 100% sure that they're going to get rented. They will just build that in.
That's a good point. Yeah. And because I even called around to the housing authority because the tenant that moved out was Section 8. And, we're interested in advertising there again for all three that we have available or that we will have available. And those numbers were still higher than what the tenant was paying that moved out. And we were talking a few weeks ago about how, because we're in like 5 different areas and the FMRs came in for 2025 and we kind of just were glancing at those. One of our zip codes actually went down for 2025, but the other ones went up just slightly. So information like that, we're looking at Zillow rental comps and things like that. And the agent that we bought these units with was like, she's sure that we can get better rents than he was saying. So I think we will try that, try our numbers and see how it goes before we give in.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I've definitely pushed press the PMs, try this rate, and then give it 3 weeks. And a lot of times it does depend on the your relationship with the PM. Do they, it's not about trust, because I think most, I'm gonna say, I'm just making the assumption they want to do a good job. They want it, and they're not, completely like lazy bumpkins that are like, certainly they want to be reasonable. So there's some that I'm like, okay, if they tell me this is the market, then this is the market. But then there's others that maybe like, they're a little more cautious toward that. Like, I want to make sure it gets rented quickly, because they don't want to deal with, vetting. So, but definitely you are the say-so of what you want to market it for. And if you want to hang out for a month with it not rented, then I know that, they tell me stories. They're like, I have one lady that she's still sitting on the market, and they could be just, pulling my leg, just to make, but there's a lot of ways to do that. But so I'll give it a try for a couple weeks and let's see what happens. And but if I don't trust them, with what I know of them and how we've communicated that they're doing their best and that they do know they are local, I'm not, then I have to think about that as well. But so all things considered, for sure.
There is a lot to consider, and the fact too, Brendan, that winter is coming. In St. Louis, it's pretty harsh winter, so we might be hanging on until after the holidays ourselves. So, we always talk about reserves and stuff, and hopefully we've got enough to get us through these kinds of things.
Are you trying to get rent above FMR or?
No, for us, Lindsay, no. I had called the housing authority there in St. Louis just to see what they were paying in the area. And some of their units were a little bit higher than FMR. I was saying, for example, the one the tenant moved out of, she was paying $1,150. The FMR was $1,209. So we were a little bit under. I don't mind being a little bit under. Like Gina was saying, I think to have a qualified tenant in place, even if you're a little bit lower than market rents, is better than having it empty for a couple of months.
Frank, any summary comments on your experience with Section 8 so far?
We've only had that one tenant, and we had her for a year, and out of all of our units, that was the best performing for the year. Rent came in on time. She did have a couple of small maintenance issues, a clogged toilet or small leak under the sink, little things like that. But really, over the whole year, we collected full rent and we got it on time. And I didn't really have to deal with the housing authority about her. It was a little bit of a transition because when we bought the place, she was there and we had switch property management companies because we had one we wanted to work with. And it took a little bit of while for Section 8 to kind of get on board and get the rents coming to the right place. Probably 2 months waiting for a rent check there because they were just going to the old property management company.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm in a kind of a sketchy area. I'm just curious I'm curious how different it is from your side of the state than from my side of the state, because through fair housing, the representative that I talked to, she had two values. There's fair market housing values, and then there's the Section 8 values that they will pay out to. There's a max that they'll pay out to. Did she give you that information?
She did throw some numbers at me that day. I was actually surprised I was able to talk to a real person. I called and they answered, and it was late in the day. They were ready to leave, but she was giving me some numbers, but also with the rents that they pay, a lot of times that includes utilities and stuff. So our portion of the rent would be down by a couple hundred, maybe.
Yep. So it's very similar to mine, and I'm not sure if it is for the rest of you guys that are on the call here. For any of you that's doing a market analysis, definitely call your fair housing authority and communicate with them, get to know them, make them a good resource and friend to talk to. Simply because, if there's housing vouchers that are, available out there to rent, definitely go after it if you can. And you're generally going to get a higher paying rent than market value, because they base their assessment and value based on what fair market value is, and then they include utilities. So it's what average utility costs are for water, power, gas, the main utilities. So it could be $250 to $300 additional that they offset it from fair market housing. So like in my market in Kansas City, like a 3-bedroom that'll be fair market housing is like $1,500, but Section 8 will pay 18, I think it was 1872 is the max. And so that's just accounting for the utility costs. They're making sure that whatever individual family that qualify for voucher can get placed into those units and be able to cover their expenses, because they don't want them getting into a unit that they can't afford, and then it becomes a problem for them. There are assistance programs too, say utility costs go up here and there, that they could get a supplemental cost to cover those expenses. But what they do is request. So when you're doing the lease up portion of it, they'll basically say, hey, the tenant will approach you and say, hey, do you accept vouchers? You say, yes, I'll accept vouchers. And then what you do is you communicate with the housing authority. And what they'll do is they'll look at what your rent's going for and what they qualify for. If your rent is going to be higher than what they think that the tenants are going to be able to afford to pay, they'll say, well, we can only cover this much. But after this point, you're going to have to cover the additional if your tenants cannot cover that. So what they'll do is like, is it possible if you can reduce your rents by $30, $50? If your rent is going to be too high, it's your choice to pick and choose if you're going to rent it out to them or if you're just going to go for a market rent. I've contacted my fair housing market representative probably 3 times. She's awesome. So, and another thing is you can ask them, what do you typically see So say you're renting out a property that's like a 2 bedroom. You can sit there and ask them, what are you typically seeing rents going for a 2 bedroom in this area? And a lot of times they'll say, well, the lady I asked, she's like, oh, it's going about this much. This is what we're renting them out for. So you can get a good idea of what you think you can get out of it.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
saying you're not a approved landlord or anything like that, but you can just call them and get that idea of the rental rate?
Yeah. Yep. You sure can.
And you're saying it's not based on the chart. There's like the specific chart, what the FMR is that's published, that you're saying that there's some flexibility in that?
Not to the fair housing. The chart's a chart. They look at what the chart is, and then they look at what average cost utilities are. So they'll have their prices outside of that chart. So if you look at the chart, it says a 2 bedroom's going for $1,200 a month.
Okay.
Their chart will say, well, we can offer up to 1,580 something because they're including utility costs. That's what it is.
And then you're paying those utilities.
No, you're not generally paying the utilities. They are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're just, so basically what they're saying is like, this is what our tenant will get paid. They'll get $1,580 some dollars. That's also to help for them to pay for water, gas, sewer, or water, gas, power, whatever. So you're going to want to look at what they can afford. So say they're paying $1,582, you're going to want to think like, well, typically what is average utility costs that they're going to be responsible for, that I'm making them responsible for? Am I making them responsible for water? Am I making them responsible for gas? Am I making them responsible for power? So if you're doing all three of those things, that could easily run $250, $300 a month in utility costs. So say,
Especially with things like shooting up, that's
so and that's where they'll get supplemental. So if rates do go up, they can apply for supplemental things after they've already locked in the lease. So you just kind of want to build that padding in. So say like 1582 is like what they'll pay up to. Say you're going to give a reduction for $350 below that. And that's what you're going to base your rent off. That way there's enough padding in there for them to pay rent and cover utilities. Do you understand what I'm saying?
well, so you're naturally, naturally you want, I want to eke out as much as I can, but you got to consider the utility costs that they have to be able to pay, and then adjust from there, and then go, this is what really the max rent that you can expect.
Yes.
Is that kind
You
of,
just got to make sure your margins are not that tight to where you can't afford to cover it. So, I mean, if you're thinking like,
oh, gotcha. You got to be able to, like, I could lower if I need to.
Yeah, you're going to maximize your rent as much as you possibly can, but not make your tenant to be where they can't afford their expenses.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Section 8, they're you got to remember they are low income. They basically are making only 40% of actual income out there usually. So they're very low.
And this is not something that a property manager will work. They will not. Will a property manager? I don't think I don't think that my property managers want to touch Section 8, and so they can. I think, I wonder if they're like, I haven't really even approached them on that, but I kind of want to
ask them. So my wife was a property manager for 10 years. She was qualified in Section 42, Section 8, all the sections out there. She worked with properties in 7 different states. And so she was operating 150 unit properties, 16 unit properties, 30 unit properties. And there are certain areas of certain states where they're primarily 80% of the tenants are on Section 8. So you just have to find that property management company out there. And then, from there, it's just asking them all the questions like, hey, how do you, I have a property that I'm looking at turning into a Section 8 property. Is this something you can help me with? If so, what am I looking at in terms of costs and fees?
Something I want to explore, or something maybe, when you're looking at future deals, like what would be the optimal, property, and just going reverse and just starting with that, the end in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank
My
you.
honest opinion for any of us that are on here that don't have a lot of properties, I think it's beneficial for you to try to self-manage your first couple of properties. And even if it is Section 8, because it really all it is it's filling out information on their online portal. Then from there, you got to go through an inspection process. They're going to call out whatever modifications you're going to have to make to the property. It could be not enough GFCI units in the property, smoke detectors, CO2 detectors. It could be window that doesn't close and open properly. Just they're usually minor things that, any landlord should take care of. That way their tenants are safe. From there, you're going to get qualified through it, and then you can basically be Section 8 approved. And so when you go to do your listing, you just say, Section 8 available, and you can market to both market and Section 8. But I think what I'm getting at here is it gives you the experience, enough information about your property and how to operate it. That way, when you do go and start having a property management company operate your properties, then you kind of have enough information where you can, call property management companies out there that aren't doing the job that they said they're going to do. You can ask them the right questions about, what are the fees and stuff like that. Because there are some property management companies out there that will, say they'll do the job, and then they just start stacking a bunch of fees, and you're stuck with it. You're locked into a contract.
Good info.
Yeah, that was excuse me, that was one of the things that, because we went through the lumberjacks course, and he was really for even though we had a property management company, for us to get in touch with the housing authority, and even to be copied on all the emails that went back and forth between our PM and Section 8, just so we were aware of what was going on if anything came up. So that's why I reached out that day. And like Troy was saying, they were really very willing to answer any questions that I had. And then I went back to our property manager and wanted to make sure that they were going to make our properties available to the housing authority as well. In St. Louis, where we're at, Troy, that it's the city and the county. There's two different ones, and our PM said that they work with both, so that was good.
Awesome, Frank.
Exciting. Somebody brought up, I don't want to change the subject if people, somebody had a question on this, on the Section 8. I was just going to point out in terms of something that I'm really haven't been diligent on, but one thing I know, the property managers, do try to it's called client control, right? They just want to do is just enough job to keep you happy, somewhat happy. They don't care, they don't need you to be stellarly, happy, happy. So they do kind of, one of the things I didn't realize is that I'm entitled to all the reports, all the lease agreements, of course, the lease agreement, background check, everything, but you do have to be diligent to request all the info. They don't just it's not just all thrown in your property management portal. It's it's a lot of times the portal is here's your bill, that's it. And just something that Chris was talking about in terms he gets to see the background check, he gets to see their history, they get to see, do some more evaluation.
He gets to be a micromanaging asshole. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks, Chris. And that yeah, it's awkward, for me to go to be like, "Rah, rah, rah," but I'm definitely gonna be, I want to be more on it, because then suddenly these questions arise, just like on, it just silly things like they go, oh, here's this is kind of a different example, but they're like, uh, the main the sink in the main bathroom, has a leak or something. It's like, well, what's the main bathroom? Is that the hall bathroom or the master bathroom? And it's like, and like, well, what, here's a picture. It's like, well, go look at the pictures that you took on the first inspection and make sure you're talking about the same thing, So they have the information, but they, you know, or, I need to get that information so I can, double check everything.
Tina, can I offer you another thought? I
Please.
think, again, take this from the perspective of the ignorant. Like, I think that you need to visit your units at least once a year because, like, I'm only an hour away and I got this one building with 5 units that's under PM. And, like, when they're like, hey, like, the tenant moved out, two things. One, um, I'm noticing like the average, like half the tenants are rotating after a year, which is not great, right? Now, the good news is they do a decent job refilling them. I generally don't have a vacancy more than 2 to 3 weeks, right? So, but it costs me in terms of the fees they charge for new tenants. And I said, hey, do you guys take feedback on why tenants are leaving? And no, it's like, why not? Like, I mean, like, I, you need to test. I feel like until it's said differently, you have to micromanage until you have a degree of trust, which takes probably 6 to 12 months to earn. And you need to view your units because, like, I like I got a note saying, "Hey, like this unit's available," and I went in Zillow and I'm reading the description. The description's wrong. The photos are not the latest photos. And I'm like, guys, like, what are you doing? Like, the photos are old, they're dated, they're not the right photos of the right unit. And, the description is describing it incorrectly. It doesn't say there's a washer dryer. I mean, like, I feel like you have to kind of micromanage and
I do.
be oversight. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like I have to read that description. I don't like this. Why, where's the photo of this? It's like, goodness. It's like, I think, don't you guys want to rent it and find a good tenant too? You don't want to pain in the butt either. They're going to have to deal with it. Um, so yeah, I agree. There's so many things to like you can drill down on, which I'm looking forward to doing more of. So I can help them succeed.
It does take a lot of time. I think we're lucky with the way technology is today because I always find that I need to, no matter what I'm doing, like some points you brought up, if something's on your mind that you need to remember to check with your PM when you get home, for me, it's not going to happen. I need to stop right there, email them the question, and get it off my plate because I was talking the other day about how everything, like on these turnovers, takes forever, it seems like, right? They say, they send me the scope of work. This is what needs to be done to get the unit ready for rent. And then I'll say, okay, let's do it. Then they have to get estimates for all these different things. Then it's a couple days before their guys get out there to check it out and get us an estimate. Then they send it to you and you approve it. And then they got to get on the calendar for them to actually go do the work. So uh, that's why I've been trying to be really diligent about just nailing it every time they send me something because, now one of them that we closed on at the end of um, August, we're still waiting. So I don't want that to go any longer than it has to. But like Chris said, we haven't seen any of our properties in person either. And I need to make that happen this year, I believe.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I'm okay with the photos and they do get out there. I think I've like I said, I've gotten rid of a couple property managers. I had five and I got rid of a couple and then I brought in, I found two new good ones. So I feel that level of trust, personally, but yeah, but I really like this one. They do so great, deep, they photograph that place, open the cabinets, under the sink, open drawers. So everything's documented outside of the house, all the siding, everything is documented. It's been really helpful when they're like, oh, XYZ, is broken, or the little, the P trap or something like that. And it's like, there's pictures of the countertop, with the little hole or the ding. This stuff winds up becoming such a nightmare later, whatever, not a nightmare, but it's just a pain. And like you said, timing, and then, every day that goes by and not getting taken care of, people are getting agitated and more stuff happening, and you're losing that contractor got busy and they didn't, so yeah. But those I really appreciate like the uber detail, the multiple photos. So that's really important.
Cool.
Yeah,
Gina, do you have some sort of maintenance review authority and approval threshold, like if it's over 500, 1,000?
Pretty much, I really haven't had that like formal like checklist conversation, like here's my expectations, which I think would be really important. But I think 250 is where their standard practice is. They're kind of like anything at 250 when they email me. Um, Occasionally, I'm trying to think of something that happened where it was like it was just approved. I think maybe it was that sync thing or whatever. I don't know, where it's like, oh, no, it was a different property. It was a different property in Florida. And it was like, why wasn't I literally was not notified at all that there was like hurricane damage on a property. And I'm like, I do like these guys, but I'm like, what the heck? You guys didn't even tell me that there was problem, and they've taken advantage of that. We're pretty cool and chill, but at the same time, we gotta tighten this up a little bit. And at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Again, I want them to do right by the tenant, as long as they're not, just going willy-nilly with, what they're not. I don't feel they are, but I want, that's number one. The resident needs to be safe and sound. That's important.
Yeah.
But then you gotta, come on, guys, be realistic. And they were this was post hurricane, so I didn't want to.
Hey Frank, can I offer one humble cautionary tale, if you're okay with that?
Yes.
So we got my one property management property. It's like my one redheaded stepchild. It's a quirky property. It's got 5 units, but it has like 13 parking spots, and it was a weird spot. It was like all like gravel, and over time the erosion had worn away, and it was, we had big ruts, and the people driving in were like taking their lives in their hands. It was that bad, right? So I talked to the property management company. I said, hey, like, I think we need to like fix some of this. And, they're like, oh, we have a guy. He'll come in. He'll level the road. He'll put gravel down. He'll put they describe it as some sort of light epoxy. They're going to hold the gravel down, and it'll be something like, it won't be asphalt, but it'll be like close, and it'll be way cheaper. I'm like, okay, fine. So they do it. Guy does it. And like a month later, it's like already kind of like fading away. And so what I come to find is that this is one of their maintenance guys who, this was he's like, oh, I think I can do this. So I'm going to do it on the side. And I guess what I would say is, and again, not all property management companies, but what I learned is like you have to make sure that for large projects, let's say over like $500,000, you need to be like, hey guys, is this somebody who's done this before? Because what I found out afterwards, this is the guy is like, oh, he was our maintenance guy. He wanted to try this, and I spent 5,000 bucks on something that I had to go back later and spend another $6,000 to get it like paved in asphalt, and I was pissed. And they never owned up to the responsibility. Like, yeah, you let your maintenance guy who did like I don't know whatever the hell he did. He never owned up to the fact that you let that guy do this as an experiment, and it lasted like 3 months. So like, I think you have to be careful about when you get into like large dollar investments. You got to like really make sure like show me the quotes, tell me about the suppliers you've chosen to do this. Just a humble cautionary tale. So
Yeah, that's a lot of money to spend on a maybe it'll work.
yeah,
I
well,
was
that's the after discussion, right, Frank? Like
So the asphalt was only $1,000 more.
that's what surprised the hell out of me. It was like I don't know, 3 or 4 thousand for the gravel with some sort of spray down tar or epoxy, and then like I found Lancaster is the Nirvana of the East Coast in terms of like labor. The Amish workers, the work culture is so good. I get better work. I get better work out of Lancaster than I do in Philly for half the cost. It's crazy. So you got to take that into account. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised. Like, I got I got a 13 car parking spot. I only did about 3/4 of it, which is fine for like 6 or 7 grand. It was crazy. And just
Wow.
to give you a corollary point, in a Philly suburb, we bought a property. It's a unicorn. It's very quirky. It has a triplex, a 50-year-old house that was converted into triplex. No, by the way, the former garage of that triplex is now a 250 person catering hall, and it's got 48 a 48 spot parking lot, and that cost me 50 grand to get re-asphalted. So data points for you.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, talking, about the PMs and fees and stuff. I know the reserves that they hold vary depending on the markets. I think like the duplex in Milwaukee, they hold 500 per unit, but in our single families in St. Louis, it's 300 per home, where they can do work under that and they don't need to notify us. But I'm always trying to get them just to let me know if anything, has come up. A small plumbing repair for $150, because I don't know if it's just me, but I'm expecting, say, $1,000 a month to hit our bank account, and then that one month where it's 600 or 650, and I had no idea that something had come up that bit into that. So
I think that's a reasonable request. Anything, you need to be notified, period.
yeah, again, with
You
today's
didn't say
technology,
you didn't say that. You need to be notified, like you need to be notified the day they get the complaint, maybe, okay, fine, 24 hours, but I think same day. Why wouldn't they? I think that's a reasonable ask.
yeah,
They may be you're not saying don't move forward. You're not saying, you just like notify me. Yeah.
that's a good point. I think I'm going to start asking them for that, because again, with technology, how hard would it be for them just to, forward it in an email to you too?
So this is something I was told, and also something I heard from someone else, is that when it comes to property management companies, you have to teach them how you want them to operate your property, no different than you have to teach your tenants to communicate with you on maintenance requests, on if they're going to be late on rent, or if there's something that's to be concerned about going on in your community, or if there's pests or anything to that degree. It's setting setting an expectation with them, saying, this is what I expect, and this is how I want you to communicate with me. And if that's going to be an issue, then this may not be a good relationship with us. And that's like quarterly, monthly reviews on your property. So, if it's any maintenance request that comes up, hey, I need to be notified in an email. Doesn't mean that I have to approve it or don't approve it. You can say, like with what you're saying, Frank, that if it's less than $200, $300, whatever it is, then I'm at the obligation to trust you to make a good choice with your maintenance person to take care of it. However, I still want to see an email that this tenant, which unit, has made this maintenance request, because that way there's a timestamp saying that the maintenance request came in. You're aware of it. Did they take care of it in a timely manner? Especially when it comes to Section 8 housing, those things do come up. If your tenants are putting in maintenance requests and you are taking too long, or if your property management company is taking too long to take care of them, and they reach out to Fair Market Housing or the housing authority, say, hey, I've tried to tell my landlord that the toilet isn't working. I let them know at the beginning of the month. They haven't gotten back to me. And it's been 40 days, 50 days. Is that your responsibility as the landlord? Yes. Even though you have a property management company that's operating your property for you.
Mhm.
Then you can be like, hey, what's going on here? This maintenance request was submitted back on this date. I thought you guys were going to take care of it. Or you can come back the following week, say, hey, did you guys take care of this? So you're teaching your property management company, hey, I want to be notified. I expect to be taken care of within 5 days, 7 days, whatever that you specify. If it's an expense that's larger than that, let me know. I will address it and we'll communicate with you how we want to proceed with it. It could be end of the month. So my wife, she always had to submit end of the month reports for all of her owners every month. Didn't matter how many properties they had. They had to do end of month reports with maintenance issues to rents. So if there's X amount of rents, it showed up the occupancy, what they were generating in revenue, and what they were on delinquents on. So they even had reports for collections. So for back road rents, for evictions and so forth, they would actually hire an evictions agency to go out. I mean, not eviction agency. They would hire a collection agency to go and collect money on back road rents. So it's, when it comes to property management, the best practices is to be straightforward with them, set those expectations, and then, if they're not meeting those benchmarks, then that's where you can say within your contract, hey, this is what you're supposed to be providing for me. This isn't happening. Do we need to have another conversation about this contract not working for us? Because there are a lot of property management companies out there, and it sucks having to go through hiring someone else. But hey, you're paying them to do a job for you.
Hey Frank, just a minor thought. Given how many of us are super reliant on property management companies, it's probably worth a discussion around what are best practices changing a property management company. That might be an interesting thing for this crowd. Just humble thought.
Yeah, I think well, we've only fired one property manager recently, and we were talking about it in one of the other meetings about how firing them, I guess being professional and civil makes the transition a little easier, because sometimes, well, I should say we fired one a long time ago, and because that ended badly, they dragged their feet getting all the information to the new property manager. And the second time we did it, we left more cordially, and the transition was a lot smoother.
But I'm wondering, Frank, like, I mean, I'm gonna put my private equity hat on and be like, an asshole. Like, we need a checklist when we leave one private equity company. Sorry, one property management company. What do we need from them? Like, what like, we need the incoming tenant inspection reports. We need the credit reports they pulled. We need the contact information and tenant information sheets they pulled. Like, what's the stuff you need from from the exiting property management firm that allows you to be successful and mitigate risk? I think that would be an interesting session to like get people's thoughts. And frankly, I'd be happy to build a checklist and then we could share it. But because then whether you're pivoting to self-management, which would be my avocation, or you're getting a new property manager, how do you set them up for success? And by extension, yourself, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a list would be helpful, even though it could vary from market to market just a little bit, but most of the information is pretty general. And to your point, if you're leaving a PM and you're going to try to self-manage, there is a lot of information you would need to be successful at that. I was, not to jump around too much, but I had a note earlier about our property manager was telling me the other day that the tenant moved out, the Section 8 tenant moved out, and they go through obviously and do their walkthrough, but they were holding their deposit and checking for any damage, tenant caused damage, and if the damage exceeded the deposit, that Section 8 allows them up to $3,000 over the deposit. If just say they left and broke all the windows or something like that.
What?
Yeah, that Section 8 would pay $3,000, up to $3,000 more for damage caused by the tenant. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Really interesting.
So speaking of property managers, I found one for Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh,
and
nice.
My tenants just moved out a few days ago. Of course, they didn't tell me they moved out. They said they were moving out. But they did move out, and I asked them, "Hey, when are you moving out?" They said, "Oh, we already left, and we left the keys in the mailbox."
Oh, no.
So, I got the property manager to go take care of it after that. So yeah, we're in the process of fixing it up and get it rented out. The rent was $800. I think the market rate's like $1,150 right now. So if I can fix it up, I can rent it out for even more.
That's great. How did you come across that company?
Oh, I was looking. I was doing a search on ORAT by looking up Jackson, the keyword Jackson,
Mhm.
and it found somebody in the description. It said like the dad had properties in Mississippi. Actually, no, it was a search on Mississippi. So that person the dad had properties in Mississippi. So it came up, and then I contacted the son because the son was on ORAT, not the dad.
Mm.
And so he reached out to his dad, and his dad recommended this property manager.
Oh, nice.
I call it ORAT. ORATs. So yeah, so far so good. Yeah, in terms of this like discussion and the communication, like anytime I email or call, the manager is always there. The office managers are always there to pick up the call or respond to my email pretty quick, which is pretty good. It's not the experience I've had with a lot of property managers in terms of communication, but you can kind of tell a good one from a bad one just by how quickly they respond.
Yeah, we've had pretty good luck with all the ones that we have right now, but we were also talking a few weeks ago about um, like the first property manager we had in Missouri on our triplex. Um, the person that I spoke with in the beginning was very good and said all the right things, but that person was not our actual property manager. You know, it's kind of like they're a salesman for the company. And then when we got the actual property manager, the person that was going to be managing our property, they weren't anywhere near as good as that original person. So, but that was a big company. They used to be Boardwalk Properties, and then they turned to might have been Three Rivers or something like that. But um, that was kind of seemed like kind of a sleight of hand.
Well, I would just be suspect of any large company like that. You're not going to be treated well in a big company like that.
Yeah, yeah, and two, I think maybe Chris or Gina had mentioned, probably Chris, about training our PMs. I've said that over the months that that's what I'm hoping to do. Like they said, train them and show them how you expect to be treated. And of course, there are their guidelines, so we need to make sure we're familiar with everything that we signed to sign up with each company. But then we can hold them accountable to what's in their agreements as well.
Maybe, Frank, there's a step before that, which is see if they are trainable, right? Just a
Yeah,
humble thought. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think you want to give them too much time. If they don't come around, then, but like you guys were saying earlier, they do just enough to keep you happy, right? So then I think Cody's not on the call with us tonight, but he was struggling with the decision if he should switch property management companies, because the one he was with was so. They did say half the stuff that he liked, but he didn't know if he switched to another company, if they would do any of the stuff he liked, or maybe do the other half right. And it just wasn't a complete picture. So I believe he ended up turning a few units over to the other company to test them out. And we'll have to see what he says about that experiment next time he's on. That was a lot of property management information. Does anybody have any other questions on any other topics or any
Yeah,
other?
can I ask you guys advice on something?
Of course.
Okay, so I had my first BRRRR. I'm in a process of cashing out refi, and I have the possibility of taking basically all the money that I put in out of the deal, but I will only cash flow if I do that $50 a month.
Too skinny of an alligator.
It looks like it, right? Or I could leave some money in the deal, and then my cash and cash return would be around 14%.
Is the $50 positive after expenses are taken out as well?
Yeah, after everything aside, vacancy, repairs, capex, 15% out. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, $50 seems a little bit low. But two, if you get all your money back out, then that $50 or what you're setting aside for reserves, that's somebody had mentioned an infinite return the other day. I think that's what that would
Right.
be, right?
That is what I'm breaking my head in, and which adds like it's a difference of leaving $11,000 back on the deal. Which I mean, like if you think about it, $50 per month, then it's like $600 a year. So
Mhm.
rather have $11,000 in my pocket versus accumulating an additional let's say $150 monthly. That's
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
I'm making sense right now.
yeah. No, it makes sense. I think I would personally, I would feel more comfortable if I had a bunch of reserves already, just in case something happened right away that you needed to use some reserves for. But if
I do have reserves for all my properties.
Mhm.
Do you have a rule of thumb of how much you like to make per door?
No, I have a cash on cash return yield that I like to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could offer an alarmist view, like I would just say, like, let's look at the inflationary environment, which just went up today. Let's look at the declining challenges that the local townships have. So your local odds are they're going to be aggressive in terms of raising your tax assessments. I would say be really cautious there. Maybe take less cash out and get a little more of a balance in terms of like cash flow. Just a humble thought.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to hear you guys' advice because obviously you are the people that are doing the same thing I'm doing. So,
What do you plan
So,
on doing with the money?
huh?
What do you plan on doing with the money? Like, do you have something to do with it right now?
So
11K,
I
that
use
extra
my
11K.
HELOC to fund this burr, so I'm gonna pay back my HELOC. And
What's the
then
HELOC interest rate?
on my HELOC,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 8.5, I think, right now.
that's not bad.
Yeah.
Pull small children by the hand.
to get
Do
you
you,
to go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if you did nothing, like, I mean, you could refinance, but like, if you did not, like, what's your situation around it if you did nothing from a cash flow perspective, versus if you refinance, like half what you're thinking about versus full, like, I don't know, like, I think we're in an environment where the next 6 to 36 months are going to be very variable. We're going to see wild swings in bond rates, interest rates. I just don't know what to expect. Like, and that's just my opinion for what it's worth. But like, I would say you don't want to be as conservative as possible on cash flow because, like, I work in private equity, and like the number one issue that's making companies go into bankruptcy is, yeah, we got a great business, we got a great product, but like our cash flow is all out of whack, right? So I would be really conservative on that front for the next at least 12, maybe 24 months. Just my humble opinion.
Mhm.
I wonder, maybe where Brett was going was when you said you have your cash on cash return that you like to get, and that sounded like it was 14%. How much cash would that be? How much would you be getting if it were 14%?
Yeah, so I would be getting like $180 for the house, but leaving behind like $11,000 in the deal. Around that number. Really,
Wouldn't you
really,
wouldn't you
there
be
was, oh, go ahead.
sorry, was it just a thought here? Wouldn't you be paying off some of the HELOC monthly anyway? So you're losing some of that. You're using some of the cash to just repay the HELOC. That makes sense.
It does make sense, but if I pay off the heel completely, then I don't.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That you're using the cash flow to repay the HELOC at a higher interest rate. So from that perspective, it would seem wiser to just take it all out and pay it off because at the end of the day, you're not going to have the same. The cash flow's going to be almost the same, right? Whether you leave it there or not, because you're paying off a different loan. So that's just a different angle to look at it from, I guess.
Oh, right. You make sense. See, I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, that HELOC payment, I was going to ask too, how much that is.
Well, the HELOC payment is actually I used it for multiple burrs. So the HELOC payment right now it's over 4 different projects. So I would like to get some pay down on that for sure.
Mhm.
If you ask Uber, he'll tell you to pay your HELOC completely as soon
Yeah,
as possible.
Silver would tell me to pay off the HELOC, right? So take the money out. But I definitely wanted to make sure this is not costing me money. So just after all expenses paid and putting out money side away, then $50 is what I see. I do rent out to Section 8 too, so if I rent it out to a normal tenant, would be a little bit more. I would definitely make, $150 a month more. But I had the best luck with Section 8 whatsoever. Like it's always been the tenants that are not Section 8 that actually don't pay their rent. So I definitely want to go to Section 8, even if it's a lower market rent for me.
Where is that property at?
It's Gary, Indiana. Yeah. Thank you for letting me your advice.
Yeah, of course. I was just going to say, I haven't seen a new video from you out recently. Have you been doing any?
No, I have to do the finish numbers on the BRRRR video. So
Okay.
whenever I close off, basically my ARV, my appraisal came back super high. So I'm like really happy about that.
Good.
So there will be a lot of equity back in the property also, which I think like later on I was like I can tap into it through a HELOC on that particular property.
Have you synced up with who is it? Frank Gary from who's the
Millennial Mike?
Yeah, have you synced up with Mike from Gary? Because that would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach out to Mike. He's been MIA for a while now. I don't know if you guys noticed.
I think he got a girlfriend. That's what I heard. I thought I heard Nat say, but yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him over Instagram or.
Are you going in February to the Zuber event?
Yes, I am.
You should totally like corner Mike for like a half hour.
I will try. I would try my best, but I'm sure he's like all over. You guys are all
No,
over.
I mean, last event it was pretty casual. Like I'll help barricade some of the other people away from, but you should talk to him because like you're invested in Gary in a way that many others aren't, and I think he'd appreciate that. So
yes, I will try to look for him.
Yeah, we'll run interference for you.
Please do.
Anybody else got any questions?
I would love to know if anybody's just thinking through the economics of the next 24 months. Like, has anybody heard anything from the townships about increasing assessments, changing property tax rates? Because, like, I feel like that's the one thing we have no control over. I'm just curious if anybody's got any perspectives on that.
Yeah, the property taxes in Chicago are going up quite a bit.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have seen like broadly and universally, like all corners of the U.S. Taxes. It is, of course, going to be market dependent, but that has been the general consensus, especially with larger area markets. You know, like your New York, your Miami, San Fran, LA, Chicago, like Jason mentioned a second ago, like taxes are going up significantly in some areas. And so it is really going to be kind of a brace yourself moment for some of them. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep abreast of. Hopefully they don't go too much in some of the local or individualized markets, but yeah, that's definitely the consensus that I've been seeing and hearing.
Yeah, I just got a new assessment a couple days ago that will effectively probably raise my property taxes $200 to $300 a month. It's awful.
That is insane.
That's where it sounds like I'm going to be at too, about 300 a month.
Well, no, that's not insane. That's just called New Hampshire, where you can expect a 20% property tax increase in a year.
Oh, and steadily did reach back out to me. The reason my insurance went up $1,100 is because I'm in Chicago and the cost of materials went up to rebuild anything. He said all of Chicago is going up.
And Jason, was that for a full replacement or why am I drawing a blank on the other one? Is it ACV, actual cash value, or is it, or am I off?
Either way, they said it's not going to be much of a difference. Just the cost of everything's going way up, and I have a $10,000 deductible on that, and they don't care. So I'm shopping for somebody
No.
else.
A $10,000 deductible, and they're still raising your. That is insane.
How much? How much premium is it for the year?
It was 4,500. It's going up to 6,000, basically 6,700.
And what's the property value?
470,000.
Oh, okay. They're insuring you for 470,000.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for commercial, it's like $4,000 for 2,000 square feet
Jesus. Yeah, this isn't commercial.
in
That's
Detroit.
crazy.
So I just noticed one of my borrowers in Newport, Kentucky, the property bill went from 600 something to 1,100 something in 1 year. This year. So the assessment went from 49,000 to 94,000 for the house.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well,
Yeah,
one thing that I
and you
will.
just wanna
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say also keep in mind that I just had a conversation with a coworker, and they had I'm just comparing. We're in the same Houston metropolitan area, metro area, and he's paying about $6,000 on the insurance premium a year, and I'm paying probably quarter of that. So there's a big difference. Just keep shopping the insurance rates and don't stay with the same company. I've seen it in the same area, and they just it's insane if you don't call around and get another quote, because we're in the same area. He's not in a flood zone. I'm not in a flood zone. And yeah, so it varies a lot. So just keep shopping around.
I've had good luck with esurance.com.
I will give them a shot.
Not for investments. No offense,
Oh,
but like
okay.
that. Yeah,
They don't do landlord.
Oh,
I mean, I think different insurance companies have different focuses. Like, if you have a high-end property and you want to do Chubb, that's great, right? But like, e-insurance, I think you got to find folks who specialize in the investors, because otherwise you're going to get a really high premium. Oddly enough, USAA, I'm a bit of an advocate for them, has a great landlord's insurance. If you or anybody in your family was in the military, you can get qualified. I mean, maybe not the best rates, but good rates, right? And they're pretty decent.
One thing that I was going to say really quick was the stimulus, basically, like all of the inflation and fallout that came from the stimulus. I think this is the, if you want to call it, after effects of that. Like, first we saw property prices rise, then we saw interest rates rise. Now we're seeing taxes and insurance. Well, insurance and then last taxes rise. But the one thing, thinking back to one of the things Zuber had mentioned, and this was what I was going to say a little bit earlier, was that this was a while back when Zuber had mentioned this, but basically all of the appreciation that we're going to see pretty much for the decade is likely, quote unquote, baked into these first few years of the 2020s. So there's a high likelihood that after these bumps or surges in taxes and insurance, now, yes, of course, they're going to definitely still go up over time, but probably nowhere near as much as it is now. So I would say by like this time next year or maybe in 2 years, we'll probably see sort of a quote unquote stabling out, so to speak. I don't know if somebody was saying something.
Inflation to me is really, it really comes from the stock market. Higher up it goes, the more money people have, especially in the top 10%, they have more money to invest. So that's where the inflation comes from in a lot of cases. And now you got like $1 trillion companies, not just one, you got like 3 or 4 of them now.
Yeah, I mean, it is like that's one of the I don't know if you want to call it byproducts or whatever of all of that massive dump, because it was like 40% of like all, either 40 or like somewhere between 30 and 40% of all the M2 money supply that's in existence right now came within the last like 4 years, where I don't even know how old the country is anymore. All I know is 1776 to now, but like the last whatever it is, 200, I think it's like almost 250 years old. Yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah. In 2026 it'll be 250, I think. But so basically for the first 240 years of the country's existence, you know, it took to get, whatever 40% less of the current, M2 money supply is. And in 4 years, we added basically 40%. So that's where that massive sort of spike was from. Because, yeah, like, Mitesh, to your point, we've never seen like $1 trillion used to be something that was like, in fairy tales, like, you say like a gazillion dollars. Like, who,
yeah, like,
who thought of
10, 15 years ago, the big companies were the oil companies, like Exxon, that was only worth 300 billion. And
yeah,
they were providing oil for everybody around the world. So we've gone from 300 billion as the most valuable company to being a tech company like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Google, those 4. And then Facebook is worth more than Exxon right now. It's like, how can that be?
yeah. And it's like, what have, outside of, the advertising revenues, like, and of course everybody goes there to like congregate, but like, what real world products or value is Facebook providing, So yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
And the biggest thing about the PE ratio, people don't understand what the PE ratio is. Like when they're buying stocks, they don't understand what they're buying. The PE ratio means, okay, so PE ratio 30, which is low right now for anything really. 30 means it'll take you 30 years to break even on your investment. So, for example, say a stock is, let's just say, $100. If the company's making $3 profit on that share every year, it's going to take you 33 years to break even on the $100. And like, what, if you really understood that, like, why would you buy a share? Because that's what it means. It's like, it's going to take you a P ratio 33 at $100 share means the company's going to make $3 profit. It's going to take you 33 years to break even on your investment. Like, you're not even making profit for 33 years.
That's why you invest in the index fund and sit back and wait.
Well, the index fund's the same thing as investing in stocks.
Yeah, but it's got a historical return of 7 to 10%.
But the thing is, like, it's, the P ratio 30 means like it's like it's like pay right now for my future earnings is basically what they're telling you. So
basically an interest-free loan.
Yeah, so basically it's like, it's very topsy-turvy because if the future profits are not there, that stock sinks. Like it's geometric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Like, yeah. So,
That's why you see like the stock market suddenly there's minor news of something bad. That's why it's like it'll drop 10-20% because it's all fluff. It's like you counted all the money that you would make in the next 30 years into the price of the stock right now.
yeah, different asset
And
classes. Go ahead.
apologies. No, I was just gonna say, like, and it's not like the companies make the money, right? The companies make the money when they sell the stock, right? It's the speculators and everybody else who makes the money when, the stuff we're just talking about, right? So it's a very distorted market.
Hey, Frank. Hey, everyone.
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah.
I was gonna check in with you because I saw your video on your latest property, and you were saying the contractors are going to start soon. What are you starting with there?
Yes. So the contractor started today, which is I'm very thankful for that. And so he will be starting the demolition. So the property, the floor, the walls, the kitchen, the bathroom. So it's all needs to be updated, all need to be worked on, and so we're starting the demolition. He's gonna spend maybe 3 to 4 days, remove the old stuff, remove some of the panels in the wall. It's not drywall, so we're replacing that with a drywall, and then we're opening the wall between the living room and the kitchen to make it more like feels like an open space. And as I said, like probably in the past, there's a modification to the property, so we're adding a bedroom, adding a bathroom as well. So so yeah, basically just he's starting with demolition for the first few days, and I'm actually going tomorrow to maybe take a video, walk through the property as is, and inside, outside, just so that I have it, just documented before and after, and yeah, we'll share with you guys the updates there, and yeah, I was just excited that he started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's good. It looks like a nice place. So the bedroom and the bathroom that you're adding, is that going to be added to the existing footprint or done within the existing footprint?
Yes, it's within the existing footprint. There was a garage in this property earlier, and so but what the previous owner did, or maybe it was done years ago, is that they just enclosed that garage, and now it's part of the house, and but they kept it as is. Like it's just weird, and they just kept it as is. So in the back of the garage, and I'll shoot that video tomorrow. But in the back of the garage, there was like a small area where the washer and dryer are. So the garage and then washer and dryer room, that's where, and it's really in bad shape, but it can all be fixed. So, and that's where the third bedroom is going to go in the garage. So it will become probably the master bedroom because it will be the biggest one. And then there will be, instead of the washer and dryer, we'll have another bathroom there, since the water is already there. So yeah, it's within the same footprint. I need to start yeah, the city it's within. They're more. So although the contract probably started today, but I mean I still have time to submit the permit. It's just online, so I will do that tomorrow, and I will there's probably then once the property will we advance in the property, it's all going to be kind of permitted at least. So I don't want it to go without a permit. But yeah.
Yeah. It was this a while back you were talking about somebody else in the same neighborhood or across the street that had remodeled a house similar to this one, and you were hoping that contractor was available?
Yeah, that's exactly the same property, and I was hoping. Yeah, they just finished the other property. It just next to it there's a house in between my property and the other property, and I talked to that contractor, and I was hoping that he will be the one who will just come here and copy paste basically what he did there. It's the same floor plan. It's the same footprint. Everything is the same. So I was really hoping. I did approach him. I didn't hear back from him. Then I approached the investor that owns that property, and unfortunately, that contractor it seems like he's going to be working on another one or two houses. So I just gave up on him. So I have to find. Well, I went back and hired the contractor that worked on my primary house, and he's really good, but and I thought it would be much easier for the other guy to just do it because he just did it a while back in the other house. But yeah, it's I think it will come up really nice. I think it will yeah, I think there's a nice potential for this area and nice potential for the property. So I'm excited about it, and yeah, we'll go tomorrow and shoot some video and just to start with, and go and show it. And
Great. I don't want to mess up your videos, but what is it going to be when you're finished? How many bedrooms and bathrooms, and what do you think the rents might be?
yeah, so it's currently 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and it's going to be 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I have another house which is within a mile, probably less than a mile from this house. That one I converted from 3 bedroom to 4 bedroom, and it's currently rented for about 1,700. And this house, I'm thinking at least 400, 450, but I will put even nicer finishes in it. So I'm thinking between 1,400 to 1,500, because it's a corner lot. It's a nice sea area. So that's what I'm thinking. And then it's a burr, so I'm gonna then refinance it. So because I bought this one cash. But yeah, that's the rent. That's how what it's gonna be in that area. Yeah, because I own the other house, and I'm very selective about the tenants. So if he finishes within a month and it doesn't rent to a good tenant, I'm really picky. So I'm gonna, even if I wait till springtime, yeah, that would be okay too. So yeah, that just to give an idea of the rent.
Yeah, good. How long do you suppose the project's going to take? What are you hoping?
I asked the contractor. He said about a month. So fingers crossed. If there's about a month, and if I can rent it within a month, with even after that, or even springtime, I don't mind. I just it's about. But yeah, he said about a month. So is it 4 days demolition and a month to finish it. So hopefully that's what we get.
Wow, you better get that permit fast.
Oh yeah. So it's done online, so I need to focus on that.
Okay. Good. Hopefully everything goes smooth.
Sorry, I didn't catch up the early of the conversation. I have my kids, but how is everything with you? Is everything? I just heard about the about property for rent that you have, and you're waiting for it to be rented.
Yeah, like I was telling the group, over the past few months, we had 5 units come open because we had our Milwaukee duplex was 2 evictions, and they turned that one around pretty quick. And thankfully, we have 2 qualified tenants that are going in this month. And then we bought 2 single families in St. Louis and have been rehabbing those. And on the third one in St. Louis, our Section 8 tenant moved out. So we have 3 in St. Louis that were getting rent ready. And we were just talking about, well, everybody was talking about how rents are seeming a little bit soft right now. So we're hoping that we can get high enough rents to fulfill the property analysis that we did, when we purchased them, because rents were a little bit stronger then. And with winter approaching as well in St. Louis, it might be a little more challenging to fill those units. So we'll be keeping everybody posted to let everybody know what we end up with. So that's where
we're. Hopefully you get those units rented, and with some incentives, maybe you can get that even faster, like half month rent, first month rent, if you need to. But if not, they may be just rented as is.
Yeah, we'll give it a go because we are going to make them available to Section 8 as well. So between Section 8 and regular tenants, hopefully there's enough of a pool to pull from. We haven't had any turnovers in St. Louis, and obviously the 2 new properties are not turnovers, but they still need to be filled. But the one turnover that we're doing, I just got the scope of work today, and it's fairly lengthy, but I think once we get all those things fixed up, and some of them are a little bit larger fixes, but hopefully that will bring everything up to date to where we won't have to do it again for several years, I hope.
Yeah, for sure. And while we're talking about renovation and all that, I was going to ask you, Frank, and maybe the group, working with contractors, like this property is, let's say it's half an hour to. It's in my market, but I mean, I'm not going to go every day to check on the contractor and what they did that day, for example. So for the group, like my question is like, and for you as a contractor too, like how would you prefer to receive updates? Is it on a daily basis? Maybe at the end of the day, shoot me a video, tell me what you did, or is it shoot me a text message and tell me what you did, and I'm paying by day, so it's a little different than when they finish the job and you pay them. So this is like on a daily basis. That's how he works, and that's fine with me. But I wonder if you guys have recommendations on what would be the best way to communicate the updates, because I don't want to also like just like sleep and he goes and maybe he doesn't go to work that day, or maybe he thinks he may do less work than I'm thinking he will do, and then it'll be at the end of the week it'll be surprised, I expected more, I expected less. So what would be the best approach to this? since I'm not thinking of going every day to check on him, maybe once a week or maybe twice a week.
Does anybody else in the group have any thoughts on that before I do?
I would say that's why I like to bid jobs, because as a contractor, if I don't know exactly what your agreement is, but if I were to make an agreement where I get paid per day, I may want to stretch that job out if it's a set amount per day. Me, not personally, but I mean, some other unscrupulous contractor maybe. So that's why I like to bid jobs. That way, it also lights a fire under my butt to get it done in time.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I don't do time and materials for that reason, because the customer doesn't know how fast or how slow I am. And I wouldn't want them to think I was dragging my feet just to earn a few more dollars. I haven't heard of too many people paying by the day. I think if they're expecting to get paid by the day, it would seem reasonable, Sam, for them to tell you what they're going to get done each day. So just say, for example, you're down to painting or whatever, and he says he's charging you for the day, but he's going to paint the whole interior on that day, and then the next day they're going to get all the trim work done, things like that. Then it seems a little bit more measurable that way for you. But like you said, I mean, you don't know how fast or how slow they're going. If they're supposed to demo it in 3 days and it's not done in 3 days, then, are they going to give you some money back? That kind of thing. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the picture thing, I would think the pictures might be helpful if you were further away, but I don't. Like, if somebody asked me for pictures and they were that close, I would kind of expect them to come and see each day, if not to check on me, but just to see, the progress for the day, to validate what you're paying them each day.
See, yeah, and my point is, like, I don't want to just try to micromanage it as much. I'm trying to make him. I'm just trying to make it easy for him to communicate his work to me. At the same time, I don't want to micromanage it. So I'm trying to find a balance in between these two. I just want to make him comfortable. I've tried him before. He's done a good job. I want to make him, as comfortable, but at the same time, I want to also get the progress that I'm hoping for the work he does every day. So, yeah, I think what you guys mentioned that helps, and yeah, there's just I'm just trying to not to be over him over the job all the time, and just want to make him also comfortable doing it and at the pace he can. At the same time, I want him to, I want to get the results as well. So yeah, it's kind of finding that balance.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had worked with him before, and did you pay by the day for the other project?
Yes, I did. And so the thing is, I did pay by a day, but also like we said, sometimes I don't know how the speed he goes with. So I was sometimes expecting more, and I didn't see that. So, and I'm not the expert too. So, but I was a few days of that job, I was expecting more, and I saw like this was not going as fast. But at the same time, there was a few days where he did really, even better than I thought. So, yeah, I'm just kind of like incentivize him to do a better job, but I don't want to, be always, telling him what to do.
Yeah, I guess there are some other considerations too. For example, if he says he's going to be done in a month, what is that? What is that going to cost you? And does that fit in your budget? And I'm sure you probably already thought about all that stuff, but to me, just thinking through it, and then maybe keeping a little closer eye on the project for the first week or two. And, if things are moving the way you think they should, then you might be able to check in every other day or two and check the progress. But I think, again, he should be able to tell you what he expects to get done on any given day. And that would help you guys in the relationship moving forward, because I think he's going to understand that. Thank you, Kevin. We'll see you soon. If I told Sam I'm going to get this done and I didn't meet my goal this day, and then I didn't meet my goal the other day, maybe Sam's going to get tired of dealing with me like that.
Couple thoughts I have. It's good that you've worked with him before. I like that you have that good rapport. I would suggest random visits at the property, just to kind of keep them on their toes, and visits with a smile. not like you're trying to sneak up on them and catch them in the act of something, but just, hey, hey, how you guys doing? Brought you guys some waters or something like that, donuts maybe, something like that might be cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, to go when you're not expected.
Yeah, and then as far as performance as a contractor, sometimes what I do is I get a lot of work done, but there's almost no visual results. So, I mean,
yeah.
whatever it was,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of time, but there's just almost nothing to show for it until maybe the next day or the day after that. So I may be setting myself up for the next couple of days. Just something to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm kind of thinking because and thank you guys for explaining that, because like you said, sometimes the results are not going to be showing on a daily basis. Maybe, yeah. So that's a great point there, and three suggestions there I can keep in mind when when checking on him, and going when it's unexpected, and maybe bring some lunch or water or things in that nature, and the smile too. I like that. That's a great idea too.
Yeah, for sure. Because I always try to prepare my customers for that. Like just what Ryan said, I said, things are going to look like they're moving really quick during the demo phase, because that goes really quick. But then when you come in and you're running electrical and stuff, it looks like nothing got done that day, or plumbing under the floor or something that you can't see, things like that. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certain things go faster than others.
Well, like you said, the plumbing and the electrical will go like slower. All right, but as far as like sheetrock, I think paint is fast. I think flooring is also fast. That's just from my experience. Maybe you guys have another thought, but the plumbing, electrical, those two might be slow. Anything else that specifically that can go slow, and that I won't see progress, like visual and immediate progress on when I check on the work.
Wood replacement is my number one. Taking
Wood
something out that's,
replacement.
yeah, something that's rotten and trying to get to it half the time is just incredibly difficult. And then trying to replace it and get everything patched up. Yeah, it can be a ton of effort and almost nothing to show for it.
Oh wow! So are you talking about the framing or some kind of what kind of wood is that? Is that in the framing on the foundation or what is it? Right, or is it just the siding outside?
The specific example that I'm thinking of in my head is when I was in Gary and I was working on our property. Around there was a what was it? It was like a chimney. It wasn't an actual chimney, but it was like a chimney. It was a flue, and around this, the flooring. I don't know what had happened, but the flooring was it created like a skateboard ramp in the last maybe 3 inches of the subfloor or the oak floor rather. So it was just it was a huge ramp, and I was going to be putting down LVP, and I didn't want to have to match that kind of a ramp. That was just absurd. So I had to go down below and cut relief cuts, and then put in extra wood and fasten those things down to actually pull them down because they were so old that they had kept that shape for so long that I would had to have actually steamed them back into place where I actually get them just full of steam and just choked full of water. Then they'd be pliable, and then I could fasten them down. But yeah, I just horsed them down. But yeah, it was a ton of effort in a very small spot, and really just didn't show a whole lot of results. It was a very small portion of the floor too, but it wasn't something I was going to leave.
People were thinking you were drinking all day. Well, you've been working. Yeah, well, thanks for that. I mean, this is like a real example of what to expect sometimes, and things where when things grow slower, and you would think they will grow fast. I have another example. Like he was doing some electric changing outlets in my house, and I just thought the second day, the first day it was very slow doing it, and I just told him the next day, like, why don't we shut off the electricity in all of the house? And all of a sudden, he went faster than that. So like, things like in that nature. I mean, sometimes, yeah, yeah, appreciate it. These are good examples and good things to keep in mind when going through the project.
That's funny. I can almost see what he was thinking. Like, hey, I'm doing this electrical job for this guy. I don't want to shut off all of his power, so I'll just do this live. It's actually, from my experience, it's a little more convenient to do it live because you really know if you're doing it wrong. So, so I like to do my electrical live, but yeah, it's definitely faster to just shut it off and just go with it.
Yeah, I noticed that. Shut it off, and he was running. So, and but yeah, that's kind of yeah, that was good to know, and I hope I helped him. Um, yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, like, does he have a big crew? Is it only him and a couple of guys, or what's that like?
It's actually Frank. It's actually only him. It's actually only him. He's the whole show. He does it all.
Wow.
I may end up bringing an electrician and a plumber for this property, but we'll see how that goes. But he pretty much does everything. He does it all, and he I kind of he does it all. That's the answer to their question.
Yeah, that 1 month sounds like really fast, but
yeah,
for one person, you know. And then I was going to
Then
say too, to add to what Ryan was saying about faster and slower things, you know, when you're doing the drywall, it depends too what kind of finish you want. If you want smooth wall, that's going to take, well, it takes me forever. But if
Yeah.
you know, get a couple of taped and topped and spray texture, that goes a lot faster. Things like that.
oh yeah, and since you mentioned the walls, I mean, these walls are you know, some of them have wood panels, so we took them, we're taking that out and putting sheetrock. That's the plan. But for the bedrooms and the other areas where there is actually now sheetrocks, um, would you guys like? I mean, it's currently painted, but you know they're gonna fix it because there are some holes. It's not been taken care of. This house has been kind of, you know, not beaten, not taken care of. But for the sheetrock in the bedrooms, um, would you guys just, because it seems like it's not 100%, you know, like smooth and stuff like that. Would there be something to do before painting on these sheetrock, these walls, or you just go with painting?
I think it depends a little bit how ugly they are and what is the issue. You know, if the framing was not all flat when they set the sheetrock, you know, sometimes if that's the case, no matter how many times you skim it, it's not going to look perfect. So I guess it just depends on how rough it is right now. If the walls are basically flat, then, you know, sometimes we'll just skim all the surfaces and shoot a new coat of texture on it, and that'll help it look basically new. But
Oh, okay. So that's the process. Skimming is the process. Okay.
yeah, if everything's flat and it's just like an ugly texture or something, they can skim it with a coat or two of new mud, and then that'll be fairly smooth enough to texture, and that hides a lot. But if the framing's all messed up, doesn't matter how much mud you put on it, it's still going to look the same. And I was going to say too, on the areas where you're removing paneling, I would imagine most guys are going to check the framing before they hang the sheetrock in case they need to shim any of the studs or anything that might be uneven before they hang the new sheetrock.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, just make sure that uh, they're they're straight and right. And on this process of skimming, Frank, is that where they have mud and they skim the wall, some kind of covering?
Yeah, basically it's just applying a coat of drywall compound over the whole surface and basically applying it so it's fairly flat. And sometimes sometimes you can skim it without really sanding too much. Some guys will sand it, and but we've had pretty good luck just skimming over old texture. Usually it takes a couple of coats of mud and then we can spray on texture, or if you're matching older texture that was skip troweled or something, skip trowel hides a lot.
Yeah, what is the existing texture there?
Well, it seems like flat to me. It seems it's just but if when I look at it, it doesn't feel very flat. I mean, they've probably done a okay job, but I'm not sure what happened maybe over the years. But it seems like it seems like it's flat. There's not much texture in it.
Because there's several different kinds of skip trowel. There's like a heavy skip trowel that's almost like stucco, and then there's a moderate kind of skip trowel, and then there's like a 1940s 50s skip trowel where it's pretty much flat, but there's just little imperfections here and there. So it's really just all
Yeah.
about the imperfections and how many imperfections are there. And so if you're looking at the wall, do the imperfections look pretty not constant. What's the word I'm looking for? Spaced out correctly.
Not
I'm
not too
totally
bad.
losing my
It's not.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
Does
No,
it
no, it's
all
not
look
too
the
bad.
same?
Yeah, I didn't look at it. I I didn't focus on how it looks like because I don't have the right experience with that. But in general, it doesn't look too bad. But probably if I take a picture or I look at it tomorrow and I maybe have a better idea of how it looks like.
If it
When you
drew
guys are
your
saying,
eye to it just walking by, that's not a good sign.
Say
You know what
that
I mean?
again?
Like if it attracts your attention, then it should probably be dealt with,
Oh, okay, yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Especially if you see like the old tape joints and stuff. That's something you definitely want to go over.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'll take a better look at that. Take a look at that, better look at it tomorrow and see how if I'm yeah how that is but yeah.
Consistent. That was the word I was looking for.
There you go.
Sorry, I had to throw that in.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. That's very helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Looks like we're at our limit.
oh man, I just got out on lunch.
Hi, Jack. Yeah,
How's everyone doing?
Well, I'm doing good. I think
Doing
everybody
good.
is.
Hi, Jack.
Good.
How's it going? I've been listening to you guys for the last 3 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's time for us to sign off, and now it's your lunch.
Yeah, lunch is at midnight.
Oh,
That's a schedule change.
Oh, only if you don't think about it. If you don't think about it, then it just becomes normal.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's just about relating with the rest of the world.
Well, that frees up your time a lot.
I tell you what, the one advantage is it keeps you able to stay focused on real estate because everyone's asleep half the time.
so we'll look forward to seeing your pictures, Sam.
Absolutely. And yeah, appreciate all the input. Appreciate this group. Really, really awesome. Thank you, Frank, and everyone. This is amazing. I missed maybe the first half, and probably I will go back and listen to it in the future land. So
Okay.
yeah, and I'll post some video and probably pictures on Instagram. So yeah, excited to start again after a while. So it's always great.
Yeah, it's exciting. Good. Well, we'll look forward to seeing those.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody else, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fun.
Okay, right.
Thank you. Yeah,
See you guys.
See you
guys.
on the,
Thanks, everyone.
call tomorrow with Matt. Was that at 9 Eastern?
Yeah.
That he does those?
Yeah.
Chester, what did you rent your Detroit place for?
Oh, it rented for $13.25.
So you're the person signing signing up for rent. They looked before election, and they were not ready to sign until after election.
That's what it seemed like because I'm just like, wait, but nothing changed. That's what I'm like. Why?
But
Like, what?
you were getting but you were getting traction though, right?
Yeah, there were people who were
Okay.
checking it out. They were, inquiring about it, doing the oh gosh, what is it? The screening application,
Yeah.
doing all
Yeah.
of the due diligence, but
Yeah.
just nobody. So that's why I was just like, what in the world?
See, I've been on the market. It's probably been about the same now. I've been like 3 to 4 weeks now, and then it's just like, it's like one girl. I'm working with this guy, and so one girl is like, she's super interested, but she hadn't filled out the application. But she calls. He tells me she calls and checks on it, but she hadn't filled out the application. So, and then, he said he's got one lady, she's filled out everything, and she seems like she seems like she's spot on, but so I'm waiting to talk. So we're gonna have a conversation tomorrow to see kind of what came of that. But now that was last week, so yeah, that's it's kind of weird, but it's I mean yeah, it's kind of weird how that pans out for sure. You just never know.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And do you think about far as maybe not saying, I mean, I know it's still almost the middle of the month now, so are we looking at maybe a pro rate? I don't know. They don't. I mean, I don't know. Would that even be something to consider? Because now the rent is going to be prorated, so you can get in a little bit cheaper. You're gonna do your security deposit, do your first months, but then you still get to come in, prorated. I don't know. I don't know.
That is a good yeah, that's a good option. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Yeah,
Because if
just
you
prorate the rent.
drag your feet a little bit, then it's gonna definitely be prorated. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just my first one, I definitely tried to keep it right at the first of the month, and but this one here, like, yeah, I'm we waiting to get somebody in now, but yeah, it's definitely I'm hoping that we can get them before the first of the month, and that will prorate it. But yeah, I'm about like you. I'm just ready to get somebody in, So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
well, yeah, I think, hey, we can toss it around, but I mean, but this is what this is about, just to have these conversations, and then so it ain't like you just knocking your head up against the wall trying to figure it out, But well, I'm gonna say first and foremost, count your blessings and kudos to you, congrats, So for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate it because like I said, it was to say like starting to panic and like I'm like, is it me? Like, did I do something wrong here? And well, again, outside of like some of the, quote unquote rookie mistakes, but like it's yeah, definitely exciting. And then, once they actually do like move into the property, that's when I can be like, okay, like Dion always says, the, worry or concern or whatever, it never goes away. It just changes to, now it's gone from what if I get a tenant to will they actually pay on time?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad. So I get that gut feeling every month at the 28th.
Okay.
Now, does anybody else do that? Does anybody else get that? Or it's just me?
I definitely do.
Okay. So now I will say with my Section 8, so me, my dad, and my brother, we got one all together, and she's on Section 8. And so that one there, I do not stress. I don't worry. But now my other lady, it's just like, okay. See, like this past one's like, normally she'll come in early. She'll come in like the 28th or the 30th, just boom. She's always been early. Now it's like this time, I mean, I think it was almost like the fourth. It was like
Mm.
the four. I think I can't. I'd have to look at my calendar, but she paid me like I think like the first was on the Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. This last month, but she
Mhm.
didn't pay me. She didn't pay me till like Sunday. She paid me like Sunday at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm
It could just
like,
be
oh
the
my
time of
goodness,
year.
like yeah. I mean, but I would expect that to get a little bit closer to Christmas, though. You understand what I'm saying? But but
Yeah.
it's just
I think it's just
it's
things
just
way things are.
right, right. Yeah, I don't know, but okay, all right. So now I don't feel bad. So you always get that little queasy feeling there on the 28th. Just to I'm better once I see it. Once I see it pop up, I'm stress level goes down. But it's like, oh man, all right, what is it coming? What is it coming? What is it coming? Then you get to check in and look in. Did I miss it? But okay. So uh, glad we have these conversations.
Yeah, and
I
actually
know
to
I've been
that,
seeing my tenants pay later and later, and it's been getting kind of nerve wracking.
and then Frank, I know you said you had recently changed PMs. Um, I think was it the Milwaukee PM? I can't remember which one, but
Yeah.
I know you that was kind of one of the uh things that you had concerns about before kind of making that switch over. And I know it wasn't like necessarily like the cleanest or uh most amicable, I guess, sort of changeover process. Is that right?
Yeah, it was fairly clean, but I was going to say too, you signed up with this PM, you probably signed up for a year. So if you try to break it off sooner than that, you might have some fees. And in our case, we had passed the year, but even though we passed the year, we were supposed to give them 60 days notice before leaving them.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to look over that paperwork. Um,
Okay.
and some people, if they're really unhappy, they just pay the fee, whatever that is, to get released. That way you can move on. But yeah, we're just trying to be professional as you can, letting them know you picked a different property manager or whatever, then they're more likely to transfer all the information that they need to the new PM, get them the keys and things like that.
Okay.
Chester, one of the things that we try to do is at least chat with the PM and find out what their criteria is, right? Because just say, for example, their minimum credit score is 650. They look for 2.5 or 3 times rent. They look for no evictions. They look for no violent crimes, things like that in their records. So at least what they're screening for, and any tenant that they're going to place has passed that criteria. Then, like Matesh said, it's not going to be a bad tenant because they passed all the criteria, right? And then, like Val is saying later on, you go that step further and tell your PM, if you have multiple candidates that you can accept, I want to see their stats or whatever you would call it, and at least have some say in who they take. So I think since they have a qualified tenant, I wouldn't really say that it's a bad tenant, but maybe you would have picked a different one if there was a difference in credit scores or something like that.
Yeah, and I think because I did not necessarily explicitly say, hey, before you place anyone, I want to see the high level criteria, like, credit score, their um uh eviction history, their criminal history, like the major things, before making any decisions. At least for me and for awareness, like that's something where, like, again, because it's my property, even though they're the ones managing it, like the only phrase that I can keep thinking of is that I keep coming back to is managing the manager. That's something where, again, this is again a new process, because it's usually like I'm always going to be the one to try to figure out, like, for myself, all of the stuff. Like, now, of course, again, being whatever it is, 1,000 or something odd miles away from Detroit, not necessarily feasible. But I think it really is just more just kind of like rookie mistakes slash, like, not aware of, like, hey, these are the things that I need to be, like, looped in or keyed into at each step of the process. So I think that's kind of where this, like I said, still happy that there is a tenant, but definitely this is like more of like a
But
lesson
see that
learned, if you will.
that property manager should be doing the same thing with all the landlords. Like, why are you any different than any other landlord?
That's true.
Maybe because he's not pushing for the information yet. I think Dana's supposed to be on with Zuber next week. You might want to have all your questions ready.
Is this within school? Because I admit I have not signed up yet, but I probably should.
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
go ahead and do that.
That is in school.
Okay.
For some reason, I thought you were in there. I'm going to have to run. We're coming up on 4 hours. I think this is a record.
Hey, I appreciate everything. I definitely do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Val, thanks for being here, and thanks for sticking around with us so long. Ryan, thank you.
Hey, I'm driving. I done came from the Carolinas all the way up here to New Jersey. So
wow.
We hitting Jersey here now, so I'm about to flip it out and go to bed. So yeah,
awesome.
Y'all have a good night. Appreciate it. Had a good time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. That was a great one.
Take care, you guys.
Good night.
Alrighty. Thanks, Frank. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
You, Bye, Anna.
Oh, did you hear me?